Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe. That is Adam McKola, and we're here to talk about Joshua Zirkzee.
What a man.
Well, that's the conversation.
He is not a man, he is Joshua Zirkzee.
Exactly. So he's a player.
The man, the myth, the legend. Jay-Z. Big Zirk. The ROC.
You twerk for Zirk.
We were twerking for Zirks earlier, weren't we?
Probably. We're going to talk about him as a player, his output in terms of goals, where he sort of fits in the team, and is he kind of
the truth?
Is he the truth? Yeah. Let's start there. Let's go with his goals to start with, because he came in as a striker. He described himself as a 9.5, which is something that no one had ever heard of. Isn't really a position. And I think initially he had a lot of stick. He was getting a lot of stick from fans, from pundits. Obviously, he was booed off-ish in that half-time against Newcastle. Sorry, in the first half against Newcastle.
And when you mention that, we must acknowledge the testicular fortitude of this man, the mental strength of this man to go. I told you what happened that day, didn't I?
Go on.
He went and had a little cry in the dressing room, and then while he was crying, he went, "What the fuck am I doing crying in here?" Threw his chest out, went back out, and went, "I'm going to fucking show these lot."
Next
and
week.
He's been class ever since. Hard working, he's grafted, he's fighting, he's putting in the shift. And it's refreshing to see from a player that I think everyone thought that day, he's done. So, hats off to him.
I don't want this to be a you're defending Zirkzee and I'm criticising him.
No, it's going to be an open and honest conversation.
I'm going to be giving you some talking points, and I want, because obviously you've got to a point now where you've very much latched on to Zirkzee.
I'm a little bit playful with it as well, because a lot of it, we're in the mud at the moment, and you need stuff to be excited about. And watching that Spurs game, for example, like, he plays football in a way that makes you enjoy what you're seeing, right? Like some of the touches that he does, the little nutmegs, the little flicks and tricks and all that kind of stuff. He's the kind of footballer I admire and I want to see more of, and I want to see be successful here. He still has a lot to work on and improve on, and if you're going to be a striker for Man United, you need to be thinking about goals a little bit more. But also, I compare him to Rasmus Hojlund, right? And I think all of us will admit we don't create enough chances for Rasmus Hojlund. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
But also, Rasmus Hojlund doesn't do enough himself. And Joshua Zirkzee, on the other hand, he's not getting goals and we're not creating many chances for him, but he's doing everything else well. And I think if Rasmus Hojlund was doing everything else well, you kind of have a little bit more sympathy with him and for him. And then the stats show like, oh yeah, he's holding play up, he's doing it. But also, against Ipswich the other day, for example, Garnacho was running through. Joshua Zirkzee pulls off to the left and makes it angled for the pass so he could just have a shot. And the pass never comes. So it's a bit of both, right? He has to be more hungry for goals. He had a good headed chance the other day and he probably could have scored that. But also the team have to use him a little bit more and play him in. But yeah. I
think he hasn't scored in 14 games in the Premier League in a row,
bad stuff,
which obviously isn't good. And we look at him next to Hojlund. He has been playing behind Hojlund a little bit, hasn't he? But my big concern with Zirkzee, I know we sort of said he needs to score more, but whenever he's on the ball, I don't even consider the idea that he's going to get a shot from.
But he's the kind of player, though, yeah, where he's going to score most of his goals from the edge of the 6-yard box to the 18-yard line. Do you get the gap? Because what he does is, when he's on the ball, turns around, like we say, he's 9.5, so he's picking the ball up outside the box. He's looking to play those passes into wide areas. And then he's going to make a secondary run, and the ball's supposed to be coming across so he can just tap it in. That's where he's going to get most of his goals from. But we've seen when the ball goes out wide, unless when Ahmad was there, it was a little bit better, but there's nothing really coming back into the box to present those opportunities to him. Because that's where I think a few of his goals for us have come from as well, like the Everton one. I know there's a few, so we can count them on one hand, but the Everton one, the Fulham one, they came from those positions just between the 6-yard box and him running onto passes that were coming into the box.
A lot of his touches and finishes a lot of his goals have been one-touch finishes, him in good areas, tap-ins, which on one hand is obviously a credit to him that he gets in those areas. On another hand, I'm yet to see him get the ball, knock it to one side and smack it and hurt goalkeepers.
He did it against... He missed with it. But there was just a shot he had, like, he picked the ball up outside the box, I think against Spurs, and he tried to bend it.
Yeah.
And went quite close. So he does have that in his locker, but he's always a player very similar to Anthony Martial. I think Martial's a better finisher and he sniffed a goal out a little bit better. But Anthony Martial's first thought on the ball wouldn't be, how can I score here? Do you know what I mean? Like, how can I, like, compared to Garnacho, I think it was Ronaldo who quoted this. It was a great quote. I had to steal it. Where he was like, Garnacho wants to be the reason Manchester United win rather than playing a team where Manchester United win. Yeah. You kind of, like, I thought it was he probably said it better than me. But I thought it was a really good thing. And, like, I think he is always looking for a pass. He's always looking for his teammates, who often aren't there. So I think he needs to have a little bit more tunnel vision, try and score goals. Remember, like, we kind of had to make Ronaldo do that, didn't we? Like, stop.
One thing that I worry
about goals
that I worry about with Zirkzee a little bit is we have this thing of, like, so Hojlund, he gets a lot of criticism, and I think, you know, a decent amount of it. I understand it, and he's probably correct. But about, like, he's not getting enough service, and then we look at Zirkzee and he's not getting enough service, but Zirkzee's one of the people who should be making his teammates have better service. If he's playing as a number 10 slightly further back, like Bruno still gets a decent number of assists. I think he's got 10 assists this season. Zirkzee, how many assists has he got? 1? 2?
I'm not sure.
So he's not getting the goals, but he's not getting the assists either. Is that a concern for you? I think this season he's got 2 assists in 39 appearances. Is he not one of the reasons why Zirkzee hasn't got more goals, and why, you know?
No, because in an ideal world, them two wouldn't really be playing together, I don't think. You need pace either side of him, because the passes he does make in between the lines are good. But I just don't think Hojlund's making the right runs sometimes.
Yeah. That's definitely an issue.
This isn't, by the way, I'm not comparing it, like, you know, trying to put them in competition against each other, although they are in competition with each other, really. But, like, you know, I just don't think he makes the right runs sometimes. And of course, I think there's many things Joshua Zirkzee can do well. But I think there's a player there.
Well, that's what I
genuinely believe there's a fucking good player there.
What's the next step then? So what we've gone from is a player who was struggling to get anything sort of going up whatsoever in terms of on the ball. He looked a bit clunky. He looked a little bit languid.
I think he's lost a bit, you know.
What, of weight?
Shredded a bit of weight.
Potentially, yeah. Now we're seeing someone who, I think his first touch is looking good. At times he's dribbling with the ball well. He's got a bit of swagger to him. I think at post-Arsenal game, I'm seeing it more and more when he put Saliba down. I think that was you know, that went viral, and that was a bit of a thing for him. He's looked a bit more silky since then. What's the next step or two for Joshua Zirkzee? How do we go from a guy who has kind of fought off some of the critics a bit to actually this guy is very productive and he's a good player for Man United?
Obviously adding goals to his game.
Yeah.
Being more consistent throughout, imposing himself on the games. But also, if Manchester United were in a position where we had 2, let's say he's part of the front 3, right? So you've got 2 players that are making those runs constantly, bringing some whip to the play, or going a little bit more inverted, and then you've got the wing backs coming down. He's got them more options to play passes, I think. We don't always have that at the moment. A lot of the time when he receives the ball, we're almost on the counter attack. So there's 1 or 2 people there, and he will always find them. But I think it's about making sure that we build up, you know, phases of play in the team where it allows him to get into positions in the middle of the pitch and have more options to the left and the right of him, because he's a fucking talented boy, man. We need to find his spot. It could be that as the focal point of that front 3, where he's kind of doing the Firmino thing. He still has to add more goals, but he could then get those runners either side of him.
More productive players around him. I mean, I like that your opinion on him is so strong and so positive.
I love him.
Because I feel like, do you know a hermit crab? It doesn't make its own shell, it has to find one. Yeah. I feel as though you used to have Martial as your shell, and then
Martial.
You had to shed that.
No,
and then
you're
looking around the beach, and now you've got Joshua Zirkzee on your back instead. He's your home for now. He's your safe place, isn't he?
Yeah, I love Joshua Zirkzee.
Do you think you're going too far with it?
Yeah, but I think a little bit of it's copium.
Oh yeah, of course.
His help, like, he is the silver lining in the storm.
I think that's a lovely place to end it. Get your thoughts in. Are you impressed with what we've seen from Joshua Zirkzee? The fact that he's fought back from where he was in that Newcastle game to now looking like one of the more productive, talented players on the team. See you in a bit.